You can follow me on Twitter if you want to be part of these Twitter spaces. For the YouTube audience that will be listening later on, if you're on YouTube listening later on, this is a Twitter space. What happens oftentimes on YouTube, when I post these on YouTube, there's going to be somebody saying, I don't like when you have all those people talking. Well, don't listen to the Twitter spaces then. Because I will have asked some of you guys to talk and give your opinion. We'll be talking about these sorry ass Grammys. Are you down? Are you with it? Yes, that's my lighter you hear. And it's too goddamn windy out here, so I can't light my blunt. What's up, Eve? What's up, Quan? We got the New Black Media Archives under here. I'm trying to get my whole life together over here right now. So come on in here and make sure y'all share the space because it's a slow moving crowd. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Blunt is lit. Mm-hmm. Make sure y'all share out the space. What's up, Eve? You got something to say real quick before we get it going?
Peace to Juan, peace to the room. Look, I think that the fact that you had to tell me the Grammys were on tonight shows if I care. And that's, I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's something or if that's nothing, because I don't know. I think that everybody's kind of on something else right now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of good. But there are still people who, are listening and doing some other things. So
Yeah, yeah,
I get it.
I get it. And I have everybody come up and speak a little later on. I'm gonna lay the foundation, then I'll get you guys to come up and speak. Um, but Eve, you had a good point. I didn't know, I didn't realize. Here's the only reason why I knew it was Grammy Week. Grammy Week here in LA, it's always a bunch of concerts and parties leading up to the Grammys. So I actually had tickets to a concert, a pre-Grammy concert, but I ended up not using them, so I go to a pre-Grammy party. The Grammy parties here in LA be sick, so much fun, open bar, great. But do I give a fuck about a Grammy? Hell no. And I think most people don't because I think that's an evolution. We used to care more about the Grammys 10 years ago. Remember when 2014, 15, when black people were complaining about not about the Grammys and in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, it was always like, we were trying to get validation from them and their Grammys. But one thing I love about us in the last 10 years, we've sort of changed our tune. We ain't giving a shit about their Grammys anymore. And let me lay the foundation down, then I'm going to get different. I'll see you in the chat room. I'm going to get to you and I'm going to get to everybody else after I lay the foundation down. But when it comes down to the Grammys, we must always remember the Grammys are awards created by them folks to celebrate themselves. And to have some level of credibility, they'll lend a few Grammys to a few selected Negroes in a few selected small categories. Because if you totally don't put us in the Grammys, then even they know there's no credibility with that. You got to have some Negroes in the Grammys because hell, it would be totally not credible if there's none. But the whole game is to minimize the amount of Negroes that win Grammys, or hell, minimize the amount of Negroes nominated for Grammys. And from there, use the Grammys to justify less than talented artists being better than more talented artists. And this is true whether you're talking about the white side of the game, and hell, even on the black side of the game. No disrespect to Beyonce, but she has a chance to have the most Grammys of all time. And she doesn't have one classic album that people go to and say, hey, this album was a watershed moment in history. This album did something. All of the greats, whether you're talking about Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Janet Jackson with Control and Velvet Rope, or whether you're talking about Diana Ross with her Diana album, um, they all. Oh shit! I got somebody with a cheap ass alarm over here. God damn it. Anyway, all of the greats have an album you can point to, or two or three, that you can say, okay, this album had a certain level of social impact. This album did this and that. Beyonce, outside of her core Beehive fan base, you can't find that album, but she has the most Grammys. Jay-Z has a lot of Grammys. He has more Grammys than Snoop. Snoop has 0 Grammys. Marvin Gaye was probably the album of the century, What's Going On, and he didn't win the Grammy for that. You know what I mean? And the one Grammy Marvin Gaye won was probably for his weakest song he ever released, Sexual Healing. No, I remember asking my dad, I was like, my dad funny. My dad was, when I was a kid, he'd be like, man, Grammys ain't shit. And I was like, well, he was like, Marvin Gaye only got one. And that song said, only reason why white folks like Sexual Healing, because them motherfuckers is nasty. They ain't going to award shit that's talking about something. I remember my dad saying that shit when I was like 7. He was like, white folks ain't going to award nothing that's talking about something. You know, Michael Jackson didn't win any Grammys for History, although History was the album that had some of the biggest social impact out there that you can find ever in an album. So Grammys aren't about the quality of music. They aren't about the level of quality, either lyrically, or as far as composition. They don't usually. And what happened in that late '70s is, with black music, in the late '70s, black music started to go for that more Grammy crossover. They started chasing the crossover sound, and that's when we started losing our own sound in the late '70s, when disco got real big. Everybody started chasing crossover, and when we got to the '80s, it just got ridiculous. A lot of our great black artists lost their blackness in pursuit of these Grammys, in pursuit of this crossover style that ultimately watered down our music. So we got to know that when we having artists that are intentionally looking for that Grammy, intentionally looking for that crossover hit, in some ways, in order for you to get that, you have to water down your soul. You got to water down the blackness of it. You got to, and a perfect example, I was just talking to my father-in-law a couple weeks ago about his Grammys. He has a few Grammys, and all of his Grammys came from, I won't say it was good work, but if you put that next to his work of the non-Grammy stuff, it's not comparable. Like, he won a Grammy for Dancing on the Ceiling with Lionel Richie. He was one of the few producers that had that kept a black artist and crossed over to white folks with a black artist. But even he talked to me about that, as far as the intention on crossing Lionel over back when Lionel was with the Commodores. And it started with the song Easy Like Sunday Morning. When he put that composition together and that song hit the way it hit, that let Motown and everybody know that, okay, Lionel could potentially cross over. So they would always be 1 or 2 songs on Commodore's albums that would give that crossover sound. So that way, when Lionel Richie came out with his first solo album, the White Appetite was ready. But in order to get that white sound, you take a little bit of the funk out of it on purpose. You take a little bit of the soul out of it. You pull back on the level of complexity to the music, because when it comes down to our black music, our shit's too thick. Our funk is too thick. Our funk is too. Our music, when it's at its base level, they like it, but it's too much to digest. You know what I mean? It's like when you have a dope ass soul food restaurant, then that soul food restaurant becomes a franchise, or you have a dope ass barbecue spot with a dope ass sauce, but when that sauce gets into the supermarkets, the flavor's gone. Y'all notice that, and it's no different with music. When you start to dilute our sound, that's what makes it digestible for other people. They all love our music, but when it comes to Parliament, when it comes to the soul and the grit that's in there, it makes people who feel a certain way, it makes people feel a certain way inside. You know what I mean? It rubs our soul right, but them it's just a little bit too much. So they got to water it down like they do everything else. And in order to get a Grammy, it's the same thing. You have to water it down. The Isley Brothers didn't get no Grammys doing their stretch, doing their run. Spinners, the Manhattan. We can go down the list. because when it comes to Grammys, they limit the categories black acts can be even awarded for. They limit us down to a small few categories, even though we're the people who created all of the categories. Ain't that some shit? How we create all the categories, but we can only win in R&B or hip hop, and even in the R&B. I remember back when Beyonce was winning a lot of her Grammys in the 2000s. They would have Beyonce in the same category as Erykah Badu and Jill Scott and India Arie, and like nowhere in no world does what Beyonce do should ever be in the same lane as what Jill Scott does. Because Beyonce's music is intentionally crossover. Her music is intentionally done at a tempo, at a style that's going to go for the Grammy, go for the crossover sound. Whereas when you're dealing with someone like a Jill Scott, someone like that, you're dealing with someone who was Erykah Badu. Their song choices and song styles is a reminiscent of how black art was pre-late 70s when we made music for ourselves. It wasn't about crossing over. It was about expressing your soul. So that's not to disrespect Beyonce's sound. But when you put her sound in the same category as authentic soul music, the crossover is going to win every time. And that's done on purpose. Same thing with hip hop. Hip hop has rap hip hop should have at least 20, 25 subgenres, but it doesn't. So you get that intentionally crossover Jay-Z style, and then they'll never nominate somebody like a Devin the Dude. Devin the Dude just makes soulful ass hip hop. Devin the Dude is just soul. But because he's so authentically soulful, what he does is never going to be Scarface. These cats are soul music. You know what I mean? Outkast didn't win a Grammy until they went for crossover on Love Below. But when you're talking about Southern Playalistic, ATLians, that's soul music right there. And even Love Below was soul music. But there was enough crossover songs on that album to win a Grammy. But when you're talking about Stankonia, that's soul music, nigga. They don't nominate no soul music. Too Short, that's soul music. So the soulfulness within hip hop, like there's no way in 2003 Jay-Z should be nominated in the same category as Common. You know what I mean? But that's what they do with our music. They limit the categories, and when it comes to their style music, even though all that shit sound the same, they broaden the categories and allow them multiple categories to win. So all that stuff basically renders the Grammys basically a white people's award that because they want to maintain some slither of credibility, they offer up a couple black acts and give those couple black acts um, some shine. Never let that black act, never are they gonna let that black act win album of the year. Hell no. You can win R&B album of the year, you can win rap album of the year, but you're not gonna win album of the year. You know, and so well, I think they may have recently. I stopped watching the Grammys like 10 years, 15 years ago. So I don't know if somebody won the last 2 or 3 years. Excuse me for that. But that's basically the foundation I want to lay down. If y'all want to speak, put your hands up. Request. Eve will answer your request, and I want to get your point of view. What's up, y'all? I want to get. Just came back from a party. I look like a kid's party on the subway shit. I don't know my neighbors. So yeah, I want to hear you guys' point of view, and I want to talk because I want to have these. I want to have as we get closer to Hip Hop 50, we're going to have more and more of these discussions because this whole Hip Hop 50 thing is an intentional agenda to separate hip hop from Black American culture and nationalize it at the same time, minimizing all of the other sounds that Black people created. Let me tell you one thing before I get to the first speaker, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say this loud. R&B is still rhythm and blues. Rhythm and blues is still a bigger form of music around the world than rap hip hop. Yes, it is. Hip hop was elevated because R&B was intentionally killed. Why do I say that? Because when you find an R&B artist to compose the music the right way or get enough radio play, they're always going to outdo a rap artist. Beyonce is about to spend, people about to spend $800 for the cheapest ticket to see Beyonce. That's not, when I went to go see Jay-Z a couple years, I spent $8 to go see him at the Anaheim Pond. Yeah, $8. Yes, that's how much I spent. So you can't compare it. Adele just bought a $58 million house over here in Beverly Hills. And I drove by that bitch ass house a couple weeks ago. Like, how can she get this big of a house and with that dumbed down, non-efficient, tonal, shitty version of R&B that she does? Adele does shitty R&B, and it still outperforms anything else from hip hop. K-pop. We're talking about those Koreans over there with that, what's that, BTS, the little Korean K-pop group, biggest sound in the world. That's R&B. R&B was purposely taken from us and repurposed for other groups, for non-black people, while allowing one or two black people to get some shine. But if you notice, the last R&B woman or male to get a mainstream push is Beyonce. The reason why Beyonce gets all the Grammys is because she's the only one that gets any sort of mainstream push. She's the one that has the budget to afford the right level of production to go behind her albums. She has a budget that can get great marketing. If you market an R&B album right and put it next to a properly marketed hip hop album, the properly marketed R&B album that's composed the right way is always going to outdo the properly marketed hip hop album, and that's just what it is. So when we talk about this whole hip hop 50 thing, that's a way for them to sort of say, hey, hip hop is some separate thing other than Negro music. We're going to other it. We're going to act like we're giving a nod to these Black Americans when what we're really doing by making hip hop seem as if it started in New York on Cedrick Avenue. Or the ultimate goal is to make hip hop Caribbean and make hip hop non-Black American. And then the minute that's done, to make it white again, because they know that the Caribbean people ain't gonna fight white people the way they fight black people. So the minute if without us talking, without us having these communications, they're they want to other hip hop from Black American culture, give it to non-Black American culture, and then within a few years after that, make it white. Because the non-Black people will not fight white people for shit. They only fight us. So, and each other. So that's the ultimate plan. So that's why we having these conversations. But yeah, whoever was first to speak, go ahead while I hit this blunt.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I was just thinking about it, especially when it comes to the Grammys and such like that. We know, like with a lot of their award shows, they use that as a way to, uh, I don't want to say solidify, but give standards. Like they make it seem like whatever artist they want to push is like solidified by giving them these awards at the Grammys and such like that. Because if we keep it real, if we was being honest with the Grammys, or the Grammys were being honest, they know that our artists, like Black American artists, would be winning every single one of these Grammy roles, because majority of the music, or all the music, is just bad copies of what we used to do back in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. Even like you said with K-pop, even when it comes to people like Adele, they're just doing their own rendition, or they're trying to do their own version of what we used to do back in the day. So I feel like they're just trying to give validation, so they can say, well, these are the real people of R&B, because they have all these awards that we made up. So they're validated because we gave them these awards. So that's where I feel like that's what's happening with our music, and that's why the Grammys do these little like treacherous things by giving these other artists these types of awards. Thank you.
That's real talk. Um, because when it comes to the Grammys, I agree with that. That's the whole point. It's all about credentialing people. Think about it when it comes to Jay-Z and Beyonce. Why do they have so many Grammys? Well, all you got to do is ask yourself, why are they the only two people why are they always next to President Obama? Why are they the ones marching for Hillary? Why is it every time the Democrats need something, they know when the NFL needed niggas to come back to football, who do they call? That's what happens when you credentialize people. Hey, Jay-Z, We gave you all those Grammys, and even though your whole style is a copy and space, I'm not a big Jay Z fan. Y'all know because I'm a pure artist. I like originality. There's nothing original about Jay Z other than him being able to mix, match, and mesh a whole bunch of other people's sound into his own, and using his skill set for that. But outside of that, he ain't really got nothing original. He's a clout chaser. Um, but he gets the recognition because when it's time to get you niggas in line, Jay Z, and it worked. Look how these white folks ain't stupid. Well, on one level they are, but on another level they're pure geniuses on some levels. They played the long game. Jay Z started winning Grammys a long time ago, but let's put him next to President Obama because at some point we gonna need this nigga. Niggas ain't watching football, so what do? Man, we're done protesting, Hove. And the Super Bowl gonna be next week, and you see black folks all over social media talking about football as if the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick never happened. And so it worked. It worked. That's what credentialing people do. When you give people credentials, like what they do with say, look, Grammys, Oscars, Emmys, all these punk ass awards, the Tonys, all of this shit is to validate people if they white to make them better than they really are, and if they black, let's go ahead and validate. Let's go ahead and create a Judas go. Let's go ahead and elevate somebody just in case we need to come back around in 10, 15 years and get that black person to deceive them niggas. Because all them niggas care about is what we offer. Cool thing about this generation is us in this room and a lot of us in our generation, we don't give a fuck about what they have to offer. We looking at it ourselves, and I think that right there is what's going to make us be get past this bullshit and see through the bullshit. But whoever was next,
Yeah, I'm next. Yes. Hello, can y'all hear me?
go ahead.
All right. Hey, yo, Dwan, the only thing I gotta say is, bro, I'm just waiting for that last 10 from that 50 rappers Billboard list. If they got Eminem as number one, they can shove that whole list up their ass. And I'm so tired of that retarded shit. I know that, they run it, but it's just a lot of bullshit with it. And far as with them, like the Grammy of the year, Lil Wayne actually won. You said, I think Lil Wayne actually won Grammy of the year for the Carter Three,
He won
if I'm not.
hip hop album of the year.
Oh, he won hip hop, but he didn't
I'm talking
win
about
album of
not
the year.
not album of the year, no.
Oh, yeah, but when it comes to these accolades, it's just like it come to Eminem, like they say he's like one of the top rappers that won the main awards. I'm like, yeah, of course he's white. It's the same thing with Elvis and Justin Timberlake. Like when they was trying to compare Justin Timberlake as the next Michael Jackson, which was fucking comical to me, but they were doing that shit. And then like as soon as Michael Jackson tried to give props to Chris Brown, saying that he's gonna be the next big thing, then that shit with Rihanna happened. They really dragged his ass through the mud. So it's just bullshit. But it's the same thing with the music. It's just like the sports. Just like what's that white man name who played with the Buccaneers? He used to play with the Patriots.
Tom Brady,
Yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah,
Luka Doncic in the NBA. You know what I mean? Same shit.
right. Yeah, exactly. Like he got all them rings, but he cheated his ass off. It's the NFL do boy, and and the sad thing is, you got a lot of black people that dick ride him. Like oh man, he's the best. I'm like, dude, the guy cheated. Like the guy cheated. That's why he got the rings. He cheated, and they didn't take the rings from him. So like, it's the same shit.
Tom Brady got caught with deflated footballs. He got caught with Spygate.
Yep,
Literally got caught with three different things in that.
man, I'll tell you.
Again, that's why I don't even watch football. Fuck football.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. It's like that man got caught literally targeting stronger players from other teams. They said that he was doing all that shit, and then the sad thing was they tried to blame it on the Patriots, like it was just them. I'm like, nah, bro, it wasn't just them. What the fuck? They didn't take nothing from that man. So it's just the same people who run that industry. They run music as well. The same people. So it ain't nothing new. And what's funny about the Grammys is these the same people who gave Malcolm Moore album of the year over Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad Fucking City. Like the fuck. That pissed a
Yeah.
lot of people off when they
And,
did that.
and I think what that did was, thank you for that. And I'm gonna get you next, Rashad. So you got your hand back up. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
But what it did was, what that does is, if we as black people are looking at it correctly, and we started to look at it more correctly now, we should never think, okay, what's wrong with the Grammys? We should think, what's wrong with us for expecting white people to get our music right? Let's think about that for a second. How can somebody who didn't create it, can't innovate it, never has done anything to add to it other than bring it? Now they have brought in technology. You know what I mean? Well, in some ways they brought in technology, but most of the technology they brought in was basically destroyed music, auto tune, that destroyed shit. You know what I mean? You took it and dealing with everything on a computer. I'm not shitting on people who make music off the computer, but you're not making music. You're making sounds. You know, music and these humans to transmit their feeling and emotion through those notes. That's music. Music is the transmission of emotion through sound. That's music. Now, when you're talking about if there's no human emotion involved in it, now you're dealing with sound. And then when we look at the Grammys award sounds. They don't award compositions. They don't award true, like, music that's truly put together. Let me tell you something about music, especially when it's done through a computer versus when it's done by actual arrangers and humans. Y'all know every chord that's sung and played has to be resolved, right? Like there used to be a time where humans had to actually. I don't know if any of you guys ever did music in church. You were part of this or any kind of way when you're creating a song and the way that note ends doesn't resolve. It doesn't sound right. Sometimes it could take you know hours in the rehearsal, sometimes weeks to resolve a particular chord, a particular sound. Like I remember like my father-in-law when he said when he wrote the composition to All Night Long by Lionel Richie. It took him like he said it took him like almost 6 months to get that right. You know what I mean? When you go back and listen to it, it took almost 6 months to get a song that's 4 minutes long right. You know what I mean? But that's a lot of when you're dealing with that much music, there's a lot of things to resolve. And then once you resolve that stuff, you still need musicians that'll play it right and play it with the right feeling. And when there's that much energy going into a song, that's what goes into healing you. When you go back and listen to Michael Jackson, go back and listen to his music. Michael Jackson would take years to put together an album. Michael Jackson didn't just put together a song and throw it out. The reason why we all feel Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson and Massage, him and Quincy Jones, they'll have a song in that in Bruce Sweden. Once the song is massaged out, they'll have Bruce Sweden sitting there, the sound engineer, telling you, directing where the sound needs to go. And every single note is meticulously curated. When that much energy and effort goes into a sound, along with the 20 other human beings that were playing instruments, putting into that sound, now you're dealing with something that's going to feed your soul emotionally, spiritually, and psychically. Emotionally, spiritually, and psychically. That's what music does. The reason why we're so, and this happens a lot in hip hop and in today's music, all music talks about how many Grammys somebody won, how many albums they won. Uh, that's not music. That's in your head. But you get that. The reason why some people are in that headspace when it comes to music is because what's put into the music is basically head stuff, not emotional. So the Grammys awards that, and the reason why artists do that is because like artists ain't, you're gonna do what's gonna get. Everyone is gonna do what they see gets the most rewards. So if this particular sound is what's getting the rewards, I'm gonna duplicate that. And these crackers understand that. Let's keep awarding this bullshit ass music, these sorry sounds. Let's ignore the real artists. And as long as we keep ignoring the real artists and award the bullshit, people gonna keep making bullshit. And then the masses won't know the difference between bullshit and real shit because we always acknowledging the bullshit. So the masses won't even know the fucking difference between a real song and a quality product and this Cardi B shit we just put together. It all works together, y'all. Let's award the nonsense. Let's award the BS and human behavior, the human mind, the human animal dictates its behavior off reward every other animal on the reward. Whatever's rewarded the most, you're gonna do more. Whatever suffers consequences, you're gonna do less. Period. So if you award bullshit, people are gonna make bullshit. Now I'm not here to say all Grammys are bad. Like there are definitely some subcategories within the Grammys where you really do get some, they get it right. You know what I mean? Sometimes the Grammy they get it right on some levels. Now when it comes to that crossover level, the pop level, the parts that they show on TV, that's really where the bullshit is. And I'm gonna tell you something else. But I know multiple voting members on the Grammy panel. Half them motherfuckers don't even listen to the music. They'll have their kids be like, "Hey, who do you like? Oh, you like that guy here? Boom, fit it in, send it in." Most people in the Grammy ain't even listening to most of that shit, or they got a favor they want from somebody that manages a particular artist, or they want to work with a particular artist. That artist gets their vote. So the whole process is extremely political, tainted, and bullshit. Um, Sorry for the long soliloquy. Whoever's next.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like because I know we always mention like Grammys, and one artist that came to mind was Eminem because they're giving him validation as being one of the greatest MCs, and I always sit back and think you got artists like Black Thought that can wrap circles around him, and they validated him as being quote unquote one of the greatest, even though we know he ain't in the top 50 to be honest with you, because his
Top 200.
exactly. Like his bars ain't even close to like if we want to be honest, like he reminds me like with battle rappers, like you got battle rappers who can do exactly what he does, who can put words together better than him, but because he has that complexion for the protection or he has that whiteness that'll validate him, then they're gonna say, well, he's the GOAT of hip hop, even though there ain't really been any battles he won against any prominent rappers like that. There haven't been anybody who's been like he's really went toe to toe with that he can really stand with. So that's why that validation with these award shows, we really need to start checking it, especially if it isn't anyone of the culture.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
that's a good point. Hold on, different.
All right.
That's a good point, Rashad. Because when you were saying and different, I'm gonna get to Black Empowerment next. I'll let you speak a little later on. But I'm going into what you said as far as like the validation of Eminem. Different did bring up a good point. I didn't even know like Billboard's putting together top rappers. First off, no matter where, they're white. Why are you listening to them? Why does it matter? Why does anybody that's not born and raised and can trace their lineage back to slavery here in America, why does any of what they have to say matter? Or even if it is an FBA guy, if he works for Billboard, works for Rolling Stone, if it's a black person that works for one of these white motherfuckers, why would you listen to him? You know, if I'm getting paid by somebody, the person paying me is gonna have some bullshit in the well. So we shouldn't even like. It doesn't even matter. But you know they're gonna put Eminem in. Then they hear us talking, so I don't think they'll be bold enough to put Eminem at number one. They'll probably put Jay-Z at number one. But I look at Jay-Z, Eminem, Beyonce, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. It's all the same. It's all the same. I don't see any difference between any of them. To tell you the goddamn truth. You know what I mean? Jay-Z's a blowhard. You know what I mean? Look at what Jay-Z, what is Jay-Z's impact on music? Here's the reason why Jay-Z's awarded so much. Let me tell you why. When Jay-Z came in, that's when he's the most efficient, greatest rapper at telling you to spend your money on bullshit. Telling you 30's a new 20 because I got a better car. Instead of saying, and I'm wearing a suit. Instead of saying I elevated my mind. And then turn around and said I could rap like Common Sense, but that won't make much sense. Told you flat out, I could give you something. I got a little bit in my brain, but I'm not gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give you this bullshit. And when did Jay-Z come around? He was around when Tupac and Biggie was around. He was around when Digital Underground, Nas, he's older than Nas. He was around when all Big Daddy Kane, and the KRS One, when we dealing with all of that, he was around when all of the real niggas was around. He was there too. He couldn't cut through. The real niggas had to either die off or get get their record deal, because what happened in the late 90s, we always got to look at the white supremacist hand at play. We got to remember Jay-Z left Damon Dash to get with who? Leor Cohen. The same Leor that separated Chuck D from Public Enemy. Let's look at the chess play. What happened? When Jay-Z made that move, then what happened with the other artists? In the late 90s, a lot of your ex-clans, a lot of your good rappers that had good solid music in the late 80s into the early 90s, either they didn't get re-signed, or their projects got shelved. MCA. I mean, we can go down a list of all these great artists, rappers in the late 90s, early 2000s. They got their projects shelved. What else happened to help Jay-Z out? R&B got defunded. They took budgets that used to go to musical arrangements for R&B singers and promotion. Jay-Z won at the expense of Eric Benet, Eric Roberson, Kenny Lattimore, Blue Cantrell, Tweet. He won Jaguar Wright. He won at the expense of R&B. If you want greater detail, I did a whole show on my YouTube channel last year on how the defunding, there was a direct correlation between the defunding of R&B and the rise of hip hop in the early 2000s. So this isn't just my opinion. You can go back to my YouTube channel and I give you names, dates, and sources to show you how that was done to promote hip hop. It came at the expense of R&B. They didn't take away from the country music budget. They didn't take from the heavy metal budget. They didn't take from the budget for white artists. They didn't take away from any of those other budgets. They took the budget of rhythm and blues to fund hip hop. That's just a fact. So that environment pushes Jay-Z to the top. And what does Jay-Z do when he gets to the top? Spend your money on hoes and clothes. Who's the other nigga at the top that runs hip hop today? Diddy. He the one that really opened the door for a lot of that bullshit. It used to be, rappers have always rapped about, their clothes and having some kind of flash. That's fine. But there was always some level of balance to it. There was always some real music to come right behind it. After the hoes and clothes, it was gonna be a song about, don't get caught up in it, don't get hooked on crack, don't get caught up in the streets. You know what I mean? It was gonna be some level of balance. When Diddy came in just with a straight up, nigga, money ain't a motherfucking thing, and then not that was what's his name, but the whole bad boy sound when you're dealing with that late 90s, mid 90s bad boy sound. It was all about spending your money on bullshit. Then Jay-Z did it better than anyone else. So when Jay-Z got to the top of hip hop went from what used to be a level of consciousness, a level of, well-roundedness, rap about this and that, to straight up spend your money on bullshit. When Jay-Z got to the top of hip hop, black people we still lived in every hood. We still were the majority in Chicago in the hood. We still were the majority in LA. We still were the majority in every fucking city where black people were. We had control of shit. We had equity because of the mortgage boom. There was equity in the houses. And what did we do? The ones who did have houses, when grandmama passed you down that house, instead of making the music, instead of the music telling you to do something efficient with it, the music had us spending our money on bullshit. And we went from we never necessarily owned the hood, but we could have owned the hood because there was enough equity at the time in our houses to own what was around us. But no, the consciousness was spend your money on bullshit. And between Diddy and Jay-Z, those are the primary two, and making that the predominant message in hip hop. So of course Jay-Z is going to get the most Grammys because he got all you niggas to spend your money on bullshit. Versus when James Brown was on top, I say this all the time. When James Brown was on top, his most popular song was "People, People, We Got to Get Over Before We Go Under." He said, "Let's put up our money like the mob, build the factory, and own the job." That was the lyrics of back then when black folks was actually buying up shit and we owned somewhat of the hood because that was a consciousness within the music. James Brown had a song said, you can keep your Watergate. Just give me my money and I'll be straight. That was a song about reparations. He was like, basically, yeah, Nixon is going through Watergate right now and that's a problem. You white motherfuckers always got problems. If it's Watergate today, it's gonna be something else tomorrow. Just give me my money and I'll be straight. That's what used to be in the consciousness of our music. When Q was at the top, Q was telling you trying to be white or a Jew, but ask yourself, who are they to be equal to? You dig what I'm saying? When Nas was on top, when Nas had went from niggas clown Nas for talking about going to Africa and learning about itself. And so Jay-Z got to the top for a reason. And he's there for a reason. And these Grammys, and I'm talking about that on the black side of the game. We know how these crackers work. We know they ain't as good as us. We all know Eminem really ain't shit. He just white. I'm speaking about it on how they elevate black people to deceive us with these Grammys too. Now, who's next?
I think it was me.
Black? Okay, go ahead.
All right. Peace to you and the co-hosts and everybody listening. Dwan, I want to thank you for all the information that you dropped. Since I've been listening to you on Twitter, I've learned a lot. But I was just gonna say this: the way I came up, I was always raised that once you got accepted by your people, that was the biggest award you could receive. And I was always taught that these awards were basically like white acceptance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I got taught coming up. I was always taught if your people love you, you already made it. I just want to say that, leave it right there.
That's oh shit, I'm over here too. That's real talk. I'm glad you said that, brother, because remember those of you who are hip hop fans. Can you hear me? Let's put my mic on. Y'all hear me?
Yeah, you good. I can hear you.
All right. For those of us who were raised on hip hop in the early '90s, late '80s, crossing over was a bad thing. Go back to the lyrics.
Yes, it
Remember,
was.
remember how much heat MC Hammer took for doing that KFC commercial? When MC Hammer started getting those national endorsements, Too Short was talking shit, was saying little slick shit about him. All the rappers were saying little slick shit about Hammer. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Because crossing over wasn't something that was considered good. You know what I mean? That wasn't, once you cross, like, True to the Game, that Ice Cube's song, True to the Game, is really all you need to listen to understand the consciousness of what hip hop really was in 1991. Cube wasn't just speaking for the West Coast. Cube was speaking for all of hip hop on the song True to the Game. He said, trying to be like Jack, but Jack is calling you a nigga behind your back. Just laying the game. Talked about, he said, if y'all better listen to me. He said, because pretty soon there won't be no Ice Cube, just Vanilla Ice. He was telling you where hip hop is going, y'all. Y'all want to, if you're not true to the game, if you step and fetch and go for what they want, you ain't gonna have no more Ice Cube. Only Vanilla Ices. And what do we have now? 31 years later, 32 years after Ice Cube released Death Certificate, whole bunch of Vanilla Ices. We talking about motherfucking hip Eminem possibly being ranked a top 10 or best rapper of all time. Cube told you that in True to the Game. If you don't stay true to the game, you don't stay true to your blackness, you don't stay true to who you are, this is what's coming. How did Cube know that? All we gotta do is look at history. What happened with hip hop in the early '90s is the same thing that happened to all of our music once it crossed over. Swing was our shit in the '30s. When Chick Webb was running it, swing was the shit. The minute Benny Goodman white ass got up in there, all of a sudden, swing, by the time you get to the late '40s, swing is a caricature of itself. And that's what bred the environment for bebop to come. Only thing was with bebop was far too musically sophisticated for white musicians to comprehend. So they never touched bebop. Bebop just kind of died on the vine, on the side, because it was extremely highly intelligent musically. And it was so musical, white folks couldn't grasp it. So they just basically stopped signing bebop artists and killed the genre off. Same thing that happened with funk later on. Funk was just too highly sophisticated, so it had to be killed off by not re-signing artists, separating Roger Troutman from George Clinton, because George Clinton is the one that did more helped produce more bounce to the ounce and got Roger Troutman on out of Ohio. You know what I mean? That's when you don't re-sign the Chic Singers. You don't re-sign War. You don't re-sign, you resign the producer of a band, but don't resign the band. You made Cameo cut his band. You made the Gap Band cut his band down. You made Rick James cut his band down. Well, not Rick James didn't have to cut his band down because he was at Motown. But the Gap Band, Cameo, um, Midnight Star, all of these bands, Lakeside, if they wanted to keep pushing on, they had to cut their band off. They just totally didn't resign the Ohio players. You know what I mean? So they killed it off. And how they killed off R&B? They killed off R&B. If you guys want further research, there's a book by Nelson George written in 1988 called The Death of Rhythm and Blues. I encourage you to read that book. The Death of Rhythm and Blues by Nelson George. It was released in 1988. For those of you who want to know further, that's one of the sources I can cite as far as some actual time information on what happened with R&B. But even in that book, he talked about how when black artists started going for the crossover, when rhythm and blues started shooting for crossover, that's what killed rhythm and blues. The minute the majors came in, CBS Records, and started buying up all the black record labels, and they started going for crossover. That's why when you get to the 80s, R&B for the most part is cheesy. I know a lot of people like to say cheesy R&B really started in the 80s, brought in cheesy ass R&B. Now, we remember what stood the test of time. We remember Anita Baker because her shit wasn't cheesy. We remember, a lot of artists, Luther Vandross, Lionel Richie. We remember the non-cheesy ones. But we don't remember Howard Hewitt. Howard Hewitt was just as good of a singer as all of them. But his sound got stuck in that cheesy ass 80s sound. And Howard Hewitt should be a voice. Peabo Bryson, James Ingram, these should be voices that we still remember their music today. We should still be listening to James. We listen to some James Ingram, and we listen to anything Peabo Bryson that may come on the radio now was recorded before 1981. You know what I mean? Anything Peabo Bryson post 81, anything Howard Hewitt post Shalimar, nobody listen to that shit because it was cheesy, corny 80s, sound good for today, but could not stand the test of time because niggas was going for crossover. So when the thing happened again with hip hop in the early 90s, and they started not re-signing the more talented R&B artists, and they started they started signing these artists who were going for the hot sound versus expressing themselves emotionally through music. When hip hop took on that mindset, is when we lost hip hop, and that shit happened. It started with Puffy, Jay-Z, and then when the sound moved down to Atlanta. No disrespect to Atlanta, but y'all been fucking up the last 20 years with music. Y'all have all this goddamn control. I mean, I get it. I get trap, and I like trap, but Atlanta done took what used to be the CeeLo Greens. It devolved from the days of Outkast and CeeLo Green and Ludacris. That's all mine. Yep. Amazon got a big ass box. You sit it down. Okay. Thanks. So, when the music got to these places, you mean the sound became more spend your money on bullshit. We're not gonna use no live instruments. We're gonna loop some samples, and we got to where we are right now. And that's not the shit on all, because there are some good ass artists out of Atlanta. There really are. I'm talking about the shit that's pushed, the shit that has any kind of a mainstream appeal. It sucks. Who's next?
I wanted to say something about Rashad now about his last comment about the Eminem thing. When he said that it be like the main rappers like Royce the 5'9". Do you know who that is? The one. He's a rapper from Detroit. And actually, it was him and Eminem. They was beefing like back in the day. And every
Royce of
time,
5'9". Yeah, Eminem's do boy sometimes too much sometimes. But go
yeah,
ahead.
exactly, man. Like that's the main thing. It's like to me, and to me personally, when it come to him, uh, like to me, he's a better rapper than Eminem. But he always try to take up for Eminem and step in when somebody has something to say about him. Like he's the main one. I'm like, bro, stop doing that. Like, bro, you rap better than he do. Like, I don't know why he does that retarded shit, but it's just not him. It be 50 Cent and all them. They like, oh yeah, don't go against the wall. I'm like, man, his rap battle days are over. He ain't got it like how he used to. He ain't really had a hit since the late 90s, for real, to keep it 100 with you. Like, and the main reason why the other music kind of had good numbers back in like in the times in the present, because he had a fan base just because of him being who he is. But he's not like a hardcore rapper to me. Like,
You
they try
said
to
some.
put him in the pedal.
You said something. I want to go back on. I'll go back to. You said some.
Cool.
We talked about him having Du Bois. See, as much shit as Eminem has never had to answer the shit because he's always had Royce the 5'9" and 50 Cent as his own, as little nigga pit bulls, and that's why again why I want to have this conversation, because it's not about white folks. It's about us. It's about how we play our game. Whenever we play our game, we good. They can't fuck with us. They their magistrate. What makes them great is their efficiency at getting us off of our game with white approval. White approval get niggas off their game real fast, and we're getting better. But these niggas, they do get something. Royce the 5'9" does get something. He gets validation from all those white fans who love Eminem. 50 Cent gets a pat on the head. 50 Cent got more money than God can spend. But that white validation, when that inbox and those comments have got all them white people saying, you go 50 Cent, you go Royce the 5'9", yeah. What's wrong with these people? Man, that mean way more to them niggas than what y'all think. Fuck what y'all think. They don't like their own mama. You think they fuck with y'all? So that white validation is the thing that that value that niggas give to white folks is what they get in return. And they get a little bit of a shine because even though Royce the 5'9" is a great rapper, and I agree he's a better rapper than Eminem, but he's never going to get Eminem's promotion. So the only time his name is going to come up for anything outside of his core fan base is when he's talking about Eminem, and he knows that. The only time you're ever going to hear Royce the 5'9"'s name buzzing about anything is when he's defending Eminem, and it's not because his music isn't good enough. It's that because his music doesn't get the promotion, and it never has and it never will. So if he wants any kind of promotion outside of his immediate fan base, he has to bring up Eminem and defend Eminem. So that's how that works. And so again, that's something else we as black people need to, we need to check other black people on that shit. Like, look, that's why I don't mind saying what I got to say about Eminem, because a black person defending Eminem, just the fact that you're black defending Eminem makes me not give 1/3 of 1/2 of 1% of one fuck about what you feel or think. Once you a nigga defending Eminem, I just don't trust you at this point. So now I truly don't give a shit about what you think, because you a nigga defending Eminem. Now I'm not saying you shouldn't like Eminem. If you like Eminem, fine. To each his own when it comes to music. Music is subjective. Everybody ain't gonna like everybody. To me, whenever y'all hear me speak, people hear me talk a lot. Whenever I speak, I'm never speaking on the point of likes and dislikes or how you feel about somebody. I don't care about how people feel about people. Feelings change. You feel one way 1 minute, you read a news story headline, 2 minutes later, feel a different way. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. I don't care about who you like. I don't care about your point of view. I just speak on things from what I see. And I'm very highly critical of artists that I do like at the same time. There are artists that I do like that I'm critical of. You know what I mean? I can like you as an artist and still be critical of you on certain levels. That's just how life is. So we got to be more mature than that. We have to get out of that, I don't like this person, or that's cool, but we got to be a little more mature than that. You dig what I'm saying? So when it comes to Eminem and like people like Royce the 5'9", people like 50 Cent, we as black people, we got to start checking them niggas. Those are niggas we got to start checking now, for real. Like, hold on, bro. I know you like it. I know you like homie, but what's all this? What's all this? You getting huffy? What's up? Over a white boy? Who? Huh? And hell, most of the time, most of the niggas you see Eminem defending Eminem, no disrespect to y'all, but they ain't those of us that descend back to slavery. Some niggas who descend back to slavery. Most of the niggas I see that defend Eminem like hard, got a different flag in their profile. And here in LA, if I look back to the people I kick you with that be defending Eminem the hardest, their last names be Ojo, nigga. Their last names be they don't. I tell you right now, their last name don't be Wilson. I'll tell you that goddamn much. But who's next?
It's on Dakia.
Yes. Hi. How everybody doing in the chat?
Sir.
Yeah. Then yeah. Like when you brought up like the Eminem stuff, man, I've been having to deal with that since high school because I went to a high school where it was mostly white people, and I grew up like my uncles. We would listen to like Tupac, Scarface, Ice Cube. These were the people I looked upon that was greater, and they'll bring up the same arguments as far as like him rapping multi-syllables or but let's be one. Eminem wasn't talking about shit. I ain't even gonna lie.
Hey, I'm gonna let you speak. I'm gonna let you speak. I gotta say this part because I wanna go right on what you just said. Now, I can't miss this point. I'm gonna let you speak again. You went on about what did your uncle say? Talking about his syllabus. You notice whenever the conversation with Eminem comes around, the ball gets kicked down the road. The criteria changes. Since when do niggas talk about syllables? Name one. If you're gonna talk about syllables, then nigga bring up motherfucking Twister. If you're gonna talk about some damn syllables, let's bring up Buster then. Buster syllables. What the fuck you mean word twisting and syllables? Eminem ain't doing it like nigga. Bring up all the niggas in Bone Thugs and Harmony when they're not in jail. You mean so that part never comes up when it's a black artist. They got to go to all these technicalities. Music ain't technical, black people. We know that. Music is a feeling. Music is an expression of your heart. It's nothing. We don't get technical with nobody until you get to Eminem. All of a sudden, the way he flipped his words and his wordplay. But then you'll be like, okay, what about Crazy Bone? Oh man, them niggas only had 2 hits. All right. Well, them niggas from Bone flip words and they sing. Do Eminem sing?
Nope.
My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, cause like
Go
for
ahead.
example, with somebody like like piggybacking off what you said, somebody like Scarface. When people talk about Scarface, they talk about the emotions. You don't hear people talking about how he'll flip this word and make it sound like that, or and it comes from like what he say at night I can't sleep, I toss and turn. I don't know. It's just mainly I don't know. Maybe it's an ancestral thing where it's like you can just feel it. I don't know, but with the Eminem thing and how certain white rappers get this praise just for just being mediocre, it's not. I don't know. Like fucking Vanilla Ice is. If that situation wouldn't happen with him Ghost right, he'd probably be the GOAT in everybody's eyes. He would have been an innovator.
That's shit. My mic wasn't working. Okay. That's real talk. He would be the GOAT. He'd be the innovator if it was one of them. You know what I mean? But like when it comes to us, like this, the fact that they have to people have to change the criteria to shoehorn Eminem in, lets you know that they don't even believe they're bullshit. Because if somebody's shooting at the top, then they're at the top. You don't have to give all these caveats. You know what I mean? This is something you guys can always. This is the talking point I've been using on Eminem since day one. First off, music, the power of a song, the effectiveness of a song, how it hits you. The producer is more responsible for it than the lyricist. Let's just start off by saying that. Music is all about the producer. Way more. It's more the producer than it is the lyricist. How can I say that? Dwan, how do you say it's not about the lyricist? Well, if it weren't about the music, then Tupac's poetry would be just as popular as his music. Slam poetry will be as popular as battle rap. Poetry lounges will be every bit as crowded. You will have poetry concerts filling up a 5,000 seat stadium, same way you would rap. If it's all about the lyrics, it's not about the lyrics. It's about the music. It's about the production, the sound, the groove that you feel before the rapper starts rapping. When that 808 hit, when that kick drum hit, when that snare hit, tempo, groove, feeling. You like, hi, my name is who? My name is. You like that because that's pain from the Ohio player. You know what I'm saying?
It's like
Dr. Dre with his.
not to
Now, hold
cut
on,
you
hold on,
off,
hold
but
on, hold on,
like
hold
with
on, hold on.
Ernie.
No, no, yeah, no, yeah, no, don't. Hold on, hold on.
Oh, I apologize.
I gotta cook. Let me cook, bro. I'll let you talk. Let me cook. Um, what's that? Hi, my name is who? That song Pain has been flipped and sampled so many times, but Dr. Dre is the greatest of all samplers. So when he takes Pain from the Ohio players and tells Slim Shady to come in and say, hi, my name is who? Now you got a white boy with this dope ass Ohio players beat that was flipped by the greatest hip hop producer in history. That's what you like. This is when Dre couldn't miss. Anybody that Dre was putting out late 90s, 2000s, that shit was hit. You dig what I'm saying? This is prime Dre. 50 Cent hit. Game hit. I mean, everybody hit. You know what I mean? So Eminem's effectiveness when he dropped, he was with the baddest producer in the game. It's the production. It's Nate Dogg singing on them hooks. 3 to the 1 to nigga. That's what you like. Slim said he wrote them and he did a great job. I'm not gonna take away from him. He did a great job writing the beats that was given to him by the greatest producer to ever pick up, the greatest hip hop producer who sampled the greatest bands of all time, Parliament, the Ohio Players, etc., etc. So that's what you like. Eminem has had mainstream action all this time since then. Even though his albums may sell because he got that core fan base is going to buy anything that he sells that has a lot of disposable income because they're white, Asian, and non-black. His biggest, the people, these white folks and these Asians with the most disposable income is his biggest fan base. So if he drops them, they're going to buy it. They're going to stream it. But you have not heard a song of his catch on and get into the consciousness of America since he left Dr. Dre. And even though songs with Dre didn't really get into the consciousness of America, they just hit. They was hot for 2000. They was hot for 2001. But them songs ain't really got playback value for the day. So if you have an artist that has that much, that still has that much access to the mainstream, if Eminem drops an album tomorrow, he's going to get a promotion push. He's going to have the budget. He's going to have billboards on Sunset Boulevard. His face is going to pop up in your iTunes and your Spotify. Even though you don't listen to him, he's going to be a suggested artist. He has all that at his disposal, and still ain't made a song that resonates with the population in over 20 years. That'll tell you something. Meanwhile, Nas still dropping hits. This nigga Nas, the goddamn hit just earlier this year, using using one of my father-in-law samples. "This Is Your Life" by the Commodore. That's the number one song on the first song on Nas's newest album. Yeah, FBA talent. It ain't just an era of fad, nigga. You still good. So to put Eminem on the same level as somebody who like Nas who don't have that, who's still doing it, that's just disrespectful to our people. And if you a nigga doing that, I really don't respect you. But go ahead, whoever that was talking, go ahead.
Hey,
Yeah.
Hey Dilla, that's you, man. He talking to you, man. That 317 dude.
I wasn't looking. I had my phone in my pocket the whole time. I'm smoking this blunt.
Oh yeah, it's
I don't
Dilla
know.
now. He was the one
Okay.
that was talking. Like he got his speaker off, but he not saying nothing. But the thing you said about Dre now, he on the list too. Like he on that Billboard list. But Dre don't rap. He produce. That's what threw me off with that. I don't know why they even got him on the list.
Well, I can see why because albums that he rapped on, when you have 3 albums that you rapped on that are iconic, I get it. And fuck the Straight Outta Compton was an iconic album. He rapped on it. The Chronic
Yeah,
was definitely iconic.
yeah, that
Chronic
album
2001.
hard.
So he hasn't done a lot of music, but the little music that he has rapped on has turned out to be iconic. So
But
it's
it
similar,
was, yeah,
I
but
get it. I hear what you said, but I get it because the little he did put out it hit the way it hit. Like you can't.
Hmm.
The Chronic is still relevant.
It was Warren G that made a lot of that stuff with Tupac, though. They were kind of talking about
Well,
that. Have
not
you heard
well.
about that?
Well, that's a different topic though. We're talking about like Dr. Dre and his rapping, the stuff that he rapped on, and even when it comes to production. Look, let me tell y'all something about music production. Dr. Dre gets an unfair rap. All right, he gets an extremely unfair rap because what you have. Because here's the issue with hip hop. The, the good thing about hip hop is it's cheap to make, so a lot of people can make it. The downside of hip hop is because it's so easily efficient. You really don't have to really like the level of understanding of music and how the process of music works. A lot of that information didn't get passed down to hip hop. So when they talk about when they talk about Dr. Dre taking like, oh, he didn't put together that beat, Daz put together that beat. Oh, the Warren G did this, and Dr. Dre just all he did was just this and that, and that's well, the this and that is what makes the song hit the way it hits. Music production is a very refined. It's the refinement process is ridiculous on a song. I remember listening to sometimes I be laughing at my wife. She remembers when her dad put together the song "Sin for" not no "Secret Lovers" by Atlantic Star, and she said she remembers him being in the house for like 6 weeks, like curating like 3 notes. All she heard for over a month was doo-doo-doo. that whole that whole the way that song was layered. It took him over a month just to get some of the layering done on that song. You dig what I'm saying? So when it comes to music production, it's a tedious work. By the time you get to another level in your producing career, you have other artists coming up. Music has always had a chain of command, a process. You come in as a player, you play the drums. Quincy Jones started as a trumpet player. And then this is how the process used to go. You play the instrument or you sing. And then you go from singing or playing that particular instrument to arranging. Arranging is a person that writes the music out. Quincy Jones used to arrange for Count Basie. Count Basie, to me, y'all know, if you know me, Count Basie is the fucking greatest. But Quincy Jones came under the school of Count Basie, probably the greatest musical teacher you could ever find. But he wrote the arrangements for Fly Me to the Moon with Frank Sinatra. He wrote the arrangements. And then you go from writing the arrangements to producing. And then when you get to producing, that's a step because the arrangements of the notes and how the song was composed and put together. And then the producer's the one that comes along and sort of shapes the sound. Now, when you get to producer, when you get to the entry level of production, you're probably arranging and producing. You're probably putting together the arrangements and producing the song, like Dr. Dre did when he was with NWA and Straight Outta Compton. He put together the music and he arranged it and produced it. Well, after you've been arranging and producing for so long, some songs you can arrange and produce, but you have so much music on your table, you can't arrange and produce everything. As a matter of fact, writing out arrangements and putting together arrangements is the most tedious part of the song. Most people who are into hip hop don't even know what the fucking arranger is. You dig what I'm saying? The arranger is the one that's doing most of the work oftentimes because they have the most tedious work to get done because they have to make sure that the musicians are hitting the right notes that they wrote out and that all the notes, the horn part, the string parts, the drums, the bass, the guitar, the background, the lead, all of those different notes being played have to harmonize into one sound. And if one thing is off in that process, the whole song sounds fucked up. And then you get to the producer who edges everything off, shapes it and molds it. And he tells the arranger, okay, nah, this bass fill, that don't work. We need a different bass in here. Oh, that drum don't work. Get him out of here. If you listen to that song by Erykah Badu on her New America album, she has this part at the end of the song where she says, can you give me the number to that other bass player? If y'all know that song, that part on the song "Get Money" on her New America Part 2 album, she said she got that line from Curtis Mayfield because she was in the session with Curtis Mayfield one day, and Curtis Mayfield, the bass player, wasn't getting the song right. So in the middle of the bass player playing the music, Curtis Mayfield looked over to her and said, "Hey, can you give me the number of that other bass player?" Fired the nigga in the middle of the song while he was playing it. That's how brutal and ruthless music can be too. I got some stories from these music producers back in the day. So that right there is a very tedious process in music. When Quincy Jones did, even though he got all the credit for being the producer on Michael Jackson, nigga, it was Greg Fillinganes doing a lot of those arrangements, y'all, and the musicians. Quincy Jones had the greatest musicians you could ever assemble for Off the Wall and Thriller. You had Louis Thunder Thumbs Johnson out of LA on bass, the bass players from the Brothers Johnson, one of the greatest bass players to ever live. You got Paul Reiser writing the string arrangements on Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, one of the greatest. If you ask me, he's the Mozart of our time. Paul Reiser, his string arrangements, been going number one from the Temptations through Luther Vandross. Like you don't get no better than Paul Reiser's string arrangement. Then you got Greg Fillinganes on the keys. He's the most recorded artist of all time. No artist on earth has been recorded more than Greg Fillinganes, and he broke that record 15 years ago. Greg Fillinganes was the most recorded artist in music history 15 years ago, and he's still recording music today. I met him recently, Mouse. He was Mouse. For those of you who remember that talk show Vibe back in the day, remember Mouse? Mouse was the music director, Vibe. That's Greg Fillinganes. Mouse was also Michael Jackson's MD. If you go back and watch the Bad, all those old Michael Jackson concert videos from the Bad tour and the Dangerous tour, that was Greg Fillinganes was the music director. But anyway, you have Greg Fillinganes, and then you got songs written by Stevie. Can't Help It was written by Stevie Wonder, but arranged by Greg Fillinganes. So Quincy Jones has George Duke. He has Joe Sample, Tom Washington. Tom arranged the horns. Tom used to arrange Earth and Fire horns. So you got the guy who used to Earth and Fire, the greatest horn section in music history. The guy who used to arrange, who still at the time arranges Earth and Fire horns, is arranging the horns for Michael Jackson. So Quincy Jones did put together all the music for Michael Jackson. There were a lot of people under him that had very key and vital roles. But no one criticizes Quincy Jones for that because that's how music is done. So, of course, when Dr. Dre gets 10, 15, 20 years into his career and he no longer has to do all of the arrangements, he's going to do with every music. Duke Ellington is known as the greatest of all time. But it was, what's his name? Horn, what's his name? His arranger, the gay dude, that was, he died in 1967. He was, if I was on YouTube, somebody in the chat room would be able to tell me. But Greg Strayhorn, Billy Strayhorn, I think his name. Strayhorn. He was Duke Ellington's arranger. All music producers have had worked with arrangers and worked with people who put the song together. But after they put the song together, the producer comes and refines the song. They say, take this horn part out, put that horn part in. Or we're not going to have horns on this song. We're going to have the guitar player play the part instead. Oh, let's add some strings. Let's layer this with some strings. How many strings? How many oboes? How many violins? How many? Are we going to bring in some vibraphones on this song to color it out? Are we going to put together? Let's bring in Hubert Laws so he can flower the song with a quick little flute solo, like on that song "Daydreaming" by Aretha Franklin. You know, the decision to bring in Hubert Laws to play the flute over top of Aretha Franklin's voice is what makes that song a timeless classic, and it sends chills down your spine when Aretha's singing that song "Daydreaming." It's that kind of flowering that makes a song a song. But when Dr. Dre does it, people who are hip hop fans criticize him for it. Man, Dre don't be doing that. No music producer in history, after they got so far into their career, did it all. That's just music. But Dika, yeah, I see you back. What's up, Sonny in
Hey,
chat?
but yeah, I apologize for talking over you.
It's all good.
But
It's all good.
but going back to what you were saying about people not understanding, not understanding how production is worked. Do you also think that comes with like a lot of like black schools not having the funding to do music and not really being able to learn
Yes.
music house.
Yes. 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 100% yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you take the reason why the sound was so efficient in Ohio, the reason why the funk was so popular in Ohio is because not only did they teach music in school, the people, it wasn't that many people live in houses. You know, they worked at AC Delco. They worked for the car factory. So the adults had houses with basements and garages that can afford instruments. So not only could the kids learn music in school, they can go home and sit in the garage and practice it. And then through that process, you know what I mean, really learn how music is done. And then, because music has always had, so you come in as a musician. Let me give you an example. 'Cause that was a good comment you made. I want to give you an example of how it was once done before. This how black folks did our music without when we don't have their input. You come in as a musician, all you know is you want to play your note. James, and usually the musicians are teenagers or early 20s. James Brown loved Lucy Collins, like whether you're talking about James Brown, whether you're talking about Duke Ellington, Chick Webb, the band arrangers of the 20s and the 30s, their musicians will usually be in their teens into the 20s because the teens got the sound and the vibration of the time. The babies feel earth, they feel it under their feet, and they know the expression of earth through music. That's why you always go to the young ones for the sound. Then it's staggered because the band arranger, director, used to be the teen, the person in the early 20s and that. Now he's in his late 20s. He's gotten promoted up to arranger. So there's a sort of a mentoring process. You go through the fire first. And this is when we had it when instruments were part of the thing. Or if you weren't out of school and when you were in school, you were learning in school. For those who weren't already musicians, you had the school and you also had church. Church was vitally important. Church is vitally important because you not only you playing and you learning the ten. Like for me, I learned how to read music in school, the music lessons. But I learned how to play music in church. Church is where you learn how to play music. School is where you learn how to read it. And then you get together with your boys and your people, and y'all have a telepathic communication through your instrument. And then that's guided by an arranger. Like I remember I asked my father-in-law, how did he go from arranger at Motown to producer? Like you were at Motown with all these with Norman Whitfield, Holland Dozier Holland. How'd you go from arranging these songs to being a producer? He was like, shit. You know, I mean, tell you the answer he told me. This for all the musicians in there. He said, you got to have balls. That's what he said. And what did it mean by have balls? Have balls to know that these ideas musically that you feel in your spirit, to know that they gonna work and stand up for your music. Meaning don't compromise because this is what somebody else is doing. Of course you're gonna listen to other people, but you don't compromise your sound and what you're doing to fit into somebody else's program. He was like, basically, you gotta know in your heart, your soul, and your spirit that the sound that's coming through you is a sound that the music needs to be played. And the first chance he got to produce his own stuff with to go from arranger to producer was when he did Santa Claus is Coming to Town with the Jackson 5. And he flipped that song. He took that song from that cheesy ass Santa Claus is coming to town. He took it from that cheesy shit to Santa Claus is coming. Flip music forever. But that came out of having balls. Because as a musician, you got to know that your sound is the shit. Even though it sounds like something that ain't never been heard before, you got to stand on your motherfucking square. But he learned that because he was under the tutelage of Hal Davis, the producer who produced a bunch of hits from Motown in the 60s. And he worked with Barry White at Mirrorwood Records before Barry White got his big deal. And this was something, so when you're in an environment that used to be from school to the arranger, to the producer that you work for, and then once you learn your lesson and you get your bumps and breaks and screws and another thing, school, like you said, school. My father-in-law didn't just do music; he also went to a conservatory. Like when he got out of high school, even though he was still doing music, he went to a music conservatory to learn how to arrange. He didn't just wake up one morning learning how to write a violin part. He went to a conservatory and learned how to compose music. And then he was classically trained on how to compose and write music with pen and paper, pencil and paper. So the education process is a major reason why the music sucks, and the lack of education process is the reason why the listener is willing to accept anything. Because say you never did anything with music, but you played in band 9th grade through 12th grade, and you went on, you became a secretary, you a lawyer, you work at the courthouse, whatever it is you do. Those 4 years in high school that you learned music gives you some level of knowledge of what it takes to pull off a song. You remember back in the 10th grade when you were scared to fail your trumpet final because you had to hit that high C note at the end of the song. And if you didn't hit that high C, you wouldn't get an A, you would get a B or a C. So you know what that's like, to the pressure that's like to practice to hit that high C on your trumpet so you can get an A. Or if you was at church, you know what that pressure's like if you fuck up a song and Sister Glodine on the front row look at you funny. Any niggas in here that play music like me in church, you better not fuck up the song in church. That pressure was real. Nigga, I be on the drums. I remember a couple times I fucked the tempo up. I fucked the start of the song up. And when Miss Glodine gave me that look, the pastor looked at Miss Glodine and he saw that look on her face and he looked at me like, nigga, you fuck it up. We in church. The pastor looking at me like, nigga, you fucking up. And when you've been through that, you know and you appreciate what good music is and what it takes to pull off of a good sound. So now you may like, I'm not saying you wouldn't like Cardi B or you wouldn't like Eminem or you wouldn't like Nicki Minaj. Hell, we all like some level of degenerate music. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to have it all. But you would be under no misunderstanding that that's novelty music in comparison to what it takes to put together a real song. You would, even though you may like the song, you would understand the difference between novelty music and something that should be taken serious. And what these Grammys do is these Grammys give awards to novelty music, especially the top level awards. But go ahead. What's up, Kid Gravity?
I had something to ask
Go ahead.
about the History album. Like when you mentioned Michael Jackson History album, it's just an album of his greatest hits. It's not like an album of original work. So I was trying.
That's not true. That's not true. It's a two-disc album. The first album is greatest hits. The second album is all original.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I didn't know.
you have to go back to what you have to do is go back to the first, to go back to history, because history. The history album is more relevant now than it was when it dropped. You got to sit down and listen to history. If you smoke weed, nigga, roll up a few joints. And if you like me and you go on mushroom trips, your next mushroom trip, nigga, listen to history. This motherfucker Michael Jackson was coding so much game in that album. That is the most, history is the most militant album of all time. Yes, I said it. It's right there next to, I've always said Death Certificate is the most militant album of all time. Death Certificate, what's going on? History, but that's the reason why they buried history, because they don't want you listening to that shit, man. When Michael Jackson on that song, they don't really care about us. Who the fuck is they? Who is he? All you got, who is they? Go back and listen to the two words that they bleeped out. Kick me, kite me. Bleep that out. Say nigga all day. But you can't say Jew me, sue me the way he did. No, we got to Jew me. No, he said Jew me. He didn't say Jew. They made him take that shit out because he was telling you who the they was. And then he used a military tempo. It's a marching tempo. When you listen to that song, the groove, the feeling, because you got to remember, real music, the music is a sonic interpretation of the lyrics. With the way they've devolved R&B today and the way hip hop is now, they just kind of have a track plan and somebody saying a bunch of lyrics on top. That's why the music don't make sense. When music is done right, the music that's being played is a sonic interpretation of the lyrics. They give you the emotion of the words. That's what the music is supposed to do. So Michael Jackson purposely gives the song a pace and a tempo and a drum beat that makes you feel like marching because it's getting your spirit in the mood to march. We marching on these hoes. Who we marching on? They. Who is they? The motherfuckers that bleeped out my words. That's what he talked about. That's why he was under all them God. That's why all of the charges started coming up on his ass. You go back and listen to the song Money. If you listen to it, you gotta listen to Money with your earbuds. I got my AirPod Maxes on. Get some AirPod Maxes. Best headphones ever. Turn that shit up. And when you listen to Money, when you get to the third stanza, the third part of the song after the bridge, he starts naming who the people are you gotta watch out for. The Vanderbilts. He's whispering underneath the music. He's telling you, watch out for the idle jabbers, the backstab. They're the real backstabbers. He's telling all musicians who to look out for when you get in the game. He's saying the Rockefellers, Clint. He's dropping these names of these motherfuckers who are really controlling shit in the music. They don't like that. When you go back and listen to the song Earth song, Michael Jackson put his career on the line for the greater good of humanity in the song Earth song. He's telling you, what about us? He brings in a choir to sing behind him. Why is he bringing a choir? Because a choir is always going to lift your vibration and lift your mood. When a choir is singing, it's going to tap into your spirit. That's why when you go to church, you feel a certain way. You know that pastor full of shit, but the music got you feeling right. That's what a choir does. So when Michael Jackson really wanted to tap into your spirit, he brought in a choir behind him. So on Earth Song, he brings in a choir. On the song Man in the Mirror, he brings it on the Bad album, he brings in that's Andre Crouch. That's the Andre Crouch choir. Late 80s, that's the baddest nigga in gospel. He brings that choir into the song because he needs your spirit to know that if you want to change the world, you got to change your black ass self. You can't be looking at other people to change. You got to change your motherfucking self. Michael Jackson gave us his whole career, nigga. Michael Jackson, you gotta the music, the dancing is great, cool. The video's great, but matter of fact, you even gotta watch the videos. The videos, he's giving you a message. Remember the time. He's telling us black folks, do you remember who you really the fuck you are? I've had conversations with Taj Jackson, his nephew. Taj told me, man, he said my uncle would make sure that we knew who we were as black people. He would take us he would basically get the museum shut down so we could go and see shit that other people can't see. He told us about the Egypt and what's going on here in America and who we really are as black people. Taj told me that Michael was really into our shit, but he knew how to play the game in front of them folks and hee ha ha. But listen to his music. He said, "What about you and me in Spain?" He was telling your black ass about the Moors and the Moorish influence on music. That's why he dropped Spain, even though he's in ancient Africa. He's giving you multiple levels to study and look into. Going back to the history album, when you go back and listen to those songs, when you listen to, man, just go back and listen to that album. He got a song called DS, and that song is basically he's swinging his dick in the face of the district attorney in Santa Barbara, Tom Snett. He's like, that motherfucker basically tried to lie on me. He really tried to get me. He really thought you was gonna control me. You really thought you was gonna take control of me. Michael Jackson swung his dick in a nigga's face. Oh, y'all thought y'all was gonna put me in jail, right? All right, cool. I'll make a song about your bitch ass. Name a rapper that bold to go at the motherfucker who put them in, tried to put them in prison, and still living in that county. Saying, and I'm not gonna move, bitch. That was Michael Jackson. You better study that nigga. Who next? Sonny, Kid Gravity, y'all want to say something? Come on up. Press the mic. You want to say something? Salute to everybody up in there. Different. I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, it's still me. The main thing I was trying to ask for, like, it's okay if you send a link of the original album of history so I can know where to find it because
Nah,
they
brother,
got
I ain't gonna. No, I can't send it. We got to start being able to find stuff on our own. It's out there. You just got to look for it. So it's on Spotify. It's on. Just look for this too. Since
All
right
right.
down, you can't just do Michael Jackson. They won't take it out. But Michael Jackson
Oh, okay.
history, this too,
All right.
for sure. Go ahead, Kid Gravity.
Yeah, what's up, my man? How you?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. I'm not gonna hold you. I interviewed somebody today, and if they didn't tell me, I did not know the Grammys were on today. But I still ain't gonna watch it.
Yeah, and that ain't that beautiful to know that we can't find fucks to give about their awards. I think that's a beautiful thing.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, you remember when the day was, hey, we gonna watch this Grammys because Michael gonna go off on something. Hey, Whitney gonna go in. Now I'm like, who's leading these categories? I don't even know these people. I mean, I may
Man,
I may just watch Twitter just to see if they're gonna be nice and honor a legend correctly. That means not have some white boy or white girl sing their songs, but you know that's gonna happen tonight.
you know it. The last time I had to watch the Grammys was in 2000 when Funkadelic and Earth and the Fire was on stage at the same time. That was the last time I had to watch. You had Verdine White and Bootsy on bass at the same time, nigga. That was, I think it was 2000. It was something around that. And you had Bernie Worrell, and that's when I think Larry Dunn and Al McKay, who left the band in 1980, they came back. That was the last time they were all on stage together. That was the last time I had to watch. I mean, I remember when I had to watch because Janet Jackson. Remember when Janet Jackson was gonna perform, nigga? When Prince was gonna perform, when shit you had to watch just to hear Luther go. Ooh, you knew Luther was gonna do some vocally crazy shit. You knew it was gonna be a segment where Patti LaBelle was probably gonna kick off her heels. You knew it was gonna be a segment where New Edition was going, and it would always be something that you had to watch. Now, like, who even has a stage presence outside of Beyonce? What mainstream artists? Can somebody help me? Is there a mainstream artist that even has the stage presence to make you say, "I gotta see them"? Outside of Chris Brown and Rihanna, and not fuck hell no, not Rihanna. Out of Chris Brown, take off Chris Brown, take out Beyonce. What artist has come out new over the last 15 years? You gotta see perform. Can you name one? Can you name three?
I ain't gonna lie,
Kendrick.
to- I ain't gonna lie, brother. They gonna try to make that chick Thames. That they're gonna try to force her in there.
You said they who?
Thames,
Kendrick Lamar.
No, Kendrick. No. So what was Kid Gravity? What were you saying?
Thames. You know they're gonna try to force her on us now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Kendrick is a great performer. Okay, that's another FBA guy. Um, Anybody else
They
Nah,
gonna try
that
to
you
push
gotta
Cardi.
see? I mean, I'm not talking about who they push. I mean who you gotta see perform.
Her isn't bad.
Isn't bad, isn't gotta see perform. Lionel Richie wasn't bad, but I didn't have to see him perform. I had to see Michael Jackson perform.
okay.
That's what I'm talking about. We had to see nigga, we had to see New Edition when they were out. We had this shit. We had to see Bobby Brown. Fuck what you heard. If we heard nigga Bobby Brown, who do we have to see now?
Hey, Dwan,
Yeah, but
is this better?
yeah, that's better, much better. That's much
All right,
better.
cool. Did you see the trailer for that White Man Can't Jump?
No, they coming out with that too.
Yeah, and they're using Jack Harlow as the white boy.
No, first house. It's like I kind of want. I don't want to see House Party, but I got too many friends that are in it. Like Teddy, that's Teddy Ray's last movie. My nigga, he Teddy in that for a little bit, so I want to see it so I can see Teddy on. But that's fucked up that they did House Party. Now White Man Can't Jump. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's about to come out on Hulu.
It's already recorded.
It's already recorded. At least they weren't stupid enough like House Party and put it in the movie theater.
Man, I haven't seen the trailer, but I'm already saying trash. I'm just gonna say it right now, especially with because they really trying to push Jack Harlow. What Jack Harlow? Wasn't they trying to compare him to Michael Jackson last year or some shit?
Yeah. It to me, I saw the trailer. It kind of looked anti-black, but I'm gonna reserve judgment.
Jack Harlow looks like a shorter, mustier version of Pau Gasol. I don't like him, and anything I see him in, I'm thinking bullshit. Deke, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah. No, matter of fact, no, I lost track. Somebody else can go. My bad.
Okay, it's all good. But you see the agenda at work. You see how it's playing out. You know what I mean? That's why the best move for that is exactly what we're doing. Just take your interest away. Take your energy out of it. All right, Mike. That's the most you can do. That's the best you can do because when you're fighting it and saying why aren't we included? Why don't we get more categories? Why you're giving it energy. You're making that entity more powerful than it should be. When you're going at that entity saying you should have this person win instead of that person win. You should do this. You're giving it energy. When you remove your interest, now the game changes. Like all black people had to do was remove interest from football for 6 months. That's really a niggas. Hell, most niggas didn't last 6 months. Most niggas lasted 3. Most niggas was watching football by week 10. But in them 10 weeks, black people removed interest from football. They made all kind of goddamn moves. And all of a sudden, you can dance in the end zone again. I remember when I used to watch football, the minute somebody danced in the end zone, oh, flag. Niggas don't watch football for 2 weeks. Oh, come on, niggas, you can dance in the end zone now. Oh, matter of fact, Jay-Z, come, we gave you all those Grammys. Come tell these niggas to come back and watch football again. It's all good. We done protesting. Yes, sir, boss. They's gonna think this a chess move, boss. You know how that shit work. Jay-Z or goofy looking ass goofy ass went over there and look at all the niggas that went on and you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with watching. I'm not saying that it's you shouldn't watch football. I'm not saying that at all. People who watch football, I don't give a fuck. I'm just talking about how we all saw what happened and how all it took was Jay-Z to say yes, bossa, and for niggas to just forget every goddamn thing. So we see how the game works. So what we're doing right now with the Grammys, and now this has been just a 1 year thing. Black people, I think for the most part, we've been kind of on it with the Grammys. I think when Trump got in office, a lot of black people just was kind of like, you know what, fuck it. Not that we were scared of Trump, but some of you niggas were scared of Trump. I wasn't. I didn't vote for him, but I wasn't scared of him either. I always looked at him, you know. I knew Trump wasn't no Woodrow Wilson. If my ancestors could survive Rutherford B. Hayes and Woodrow Wilson, nigga, I knew Trump wouldn't be shit. We survived Reagan, nigga. So I lived through Reagan, so I knew Trump wasn't gonna be shit. But I knew that when it came down to like black people in general, we kind of stopped giving a fuck. We saw Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, and Rakia Boyd. You know, we saw these situations happen, and you know, looking for white folks' approval just became less important. And this has been a consistent trend since 2016. Black people have gotten, and then no, we had finished with Obama. We saw we had the nigga president. He didn't do shit, but go to Flint and act like he put the water to his lips and didn't drink it and said everything's gonna be okay. And we saw him, you know, give gay people when President Obama was in office, when he got elected, you can say the word faggot, wouldn't nobody trip. You dig what I'm saying? I'm not saying you should say it, but hey, that word got a funny rhythm to it. It's, you know, it's a good punchline. Not that you hate the people. It's just that hell, the word got a certain rhythm to it. You like saying it. You know what I mean? You can say that shit with no problem when Obama got in office. Hell, the same year Obama got in office, California rejected gay marriage, 2008. I'm here in California. Nigga, I voted for Obama and rejected gay marriage on the same goddamn ballot. Nigga, 2 years goddamn later, gay people get married. You can't say, hey, remember, for those of you who watch basketball, remember they had that commercial with like Grant Hill and Steve Nash and, hey, you can't say things are gay anymore. Before 2009, you like, man, if you don't get your gay ass out of my way, if you don't get that, man, I'm leaving this old gay ass job. That was just something we say, not shit on gay people, but we black folks, we speak with a rhythm. It was just a funny rhythm to the shit. The NBA had like 2 years of public service announcements, basically saying, don't say gay. Now you look up. That was 10 years ago. Now you look up. You don't hear nobody saying that's all that happened. So how did something go from being so popular, people not wanting gay marriage, you could say certain things, to now just a few years later, you can't say certain things. Now you got dudes kissing on camera. You got motherfuckers saying that everybody should shit dick and shit dick in his school, and we should put it on HBO Max and P Valley, and make shit dicks the stars. And then I'm watching this new movie with Eddie Murphy and Nia Long. They got a broad that looked like one of the Oompa Loompa twins. One of the remember that boy that was on Hook, that fat kid, the fat boy that was on that movie Hook, the black kid that was in everything. He was also a Nutty Professor. You got a girl version of him playing a dude, and all that happened right under our fucking nose while we still getting killed. So I think that environment is what precipitated the mindset that we have right now. That goes into us having the mind that we have right now as people. We develop a collective fuck it. And this collective fuck it is leading into us not giving a fuck about no damn Grammy. I'm in the room pretty soon, but go ahead, different. I see you got your hand up.
All I gotta say is it's the new princess of New York rap. They call it Ice Spice. They trying to make her the new princess of hip hop. Ah, I wiped my ass with that album.
Well, we got to know that they're always going to try to make somebody else. It was the same thing with jazz, same thing with rock and roll, R&B, heavy metal, house music, disco music, funk, whatever music we create, they are always going to have somebody that they push to the top. But the way we control our music, the way we've always controlled our music, when we do have maintain control of our music, is to ignore and not give a fuck about what they say. And the only person that's the top is the person that we see is at the top. But that
But
starts by us checking these niggas that go around trying to put Eminem at the top. Because when niggas put Eminem at the top, that's basically shitting on every black artist that does it right. So we got to start by cleaning house. Anytime you see a nigga going around talking about, well, Eminem is the greatest, man, check that nigga. For real, for real.
it's a lot of niggas that's like that though. Sad
Check
to
them.
say. Yeah, I do, bro. It's crazy to me, man, because it's a lot of niggas who do dick ride him. And like I said, he haven't had a hit since the fucking 90s. But the sad thing about rap music today is these niggas not even trying. They not even trying to make good music. It's like,
Well,
and they,
you gotta know that again. That's still there are plenty. Whoever they put in our face, that's the agenda.
yeah,
That's them. But black people here in California, we fuck with La Russell heavy because
Lil
he real
Russell.
good. Yeah, out of Oakland.
A
This
lot of people
motherfucker.
around my area, they like Finesse Two Times and Big Boogie. They all from
See,
Memphis.
the people again. Music is always local, and then from local, some people are going to expand nationwide. Those are the people who are hot in your town. The people who are hot and the people who fuck with them, that's who the hottest artist is. Don't be deceived by who they saying it is. Again, New York Times put out an article this past July. You guys can go ahead and look it up. Only 5% of music streams is music in the top 20, top 200. I mean, the top 200 only accounts for 5% of all Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal streams. That tells you what? That the overwhelming majority of people are not listening to top 200 music. So
Shit,
we
whack.
don't have to go back and forth about who they're pushing. They can keep pushing them. Ain't nobody listening.
Especially Lil Nas X, man, bro. I don't even
When
know
was the
who the
last
fuck
time you seen a
listen.
Lil Nas X tour?
Huh? Exactly. I don't even know why they pushing him.
But yeah, man, thanks, big. Kid Gravity, I'm about to close it out. Kid Gravity, you got something you want to close it out with, bro?
I appreciate your music knowledge, brothers. And so, yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. And please don't put on the Grammys. You might get brainwashed.
The only way I'll turn on the Grammy is if I see a whole bunch of tweets saying somebody had a great performance. I'll go back and watch that performance on YouTube. but it is Sunday. It is Sunday night. Boom. I might hit up some Grammy parties tonight, though. I'm gonna get on my text message thread and see what's going on tonight. Because
Hey, bro, real quick,
if I can find somewhere with an open bar,
real quick.
that's where I will be. But go ahead.
What you think about that Kyrie trade?
It ain't gonna work for Dallas.
They
I'm glad
left.
for Kyrie. I'm glad for Kyrie because he's my favorite player to watch. I'm glad for him to get about it because I didn't want that Brooklyn owners that get no wins off of him. But Kyrie and Luka occupy the same space on the floor, and for that to work, Luka's going to have to give the ball up and go primarily run his offense through a box and let Kyrie run point. But Luka is not the kind of player that wants to win. He wants his numbers. Getting numbers and winning are diametrically opposed. That's why LeBron's about to break Kareem's record, and in spite of getting all of the greatest talent of the last 15 years on the same team as him, he has a losing record in the finals because the motherfucker probably should have 8 championships because you had goddamn Dwayne Wade on your fucking team. You only won 2 of them hoes because you about your numbers. Russell Westbrook, about his numbers. That's why he can average triple-double and not win. Luka Doncic, about his numbers. About their numbers, players don't win. And Kyrie plays an efficient game. Kyrie plays to win. And so playing to win means sometimes tonight I'm only going to get 17 points because I got to lock down my other guy or this player's hot and that player's hot. And we'll be more efficient if I get them the ball where they need to be so that I can keep them rolling. So I might only have 17 points tonight, but I'm going to have 13 assists. That's something Jason Kidd understood. That's why Jason Kidd was able to dominate the game with 11 points, 17 assists, and 9 rebounds. You'd be like, Jason Kidd only had 11 points. But no, he dominated the whole fucking game. Because playing basketball isn't about stuff in a stat sheet. It's about doing the things it takes to win the game. Luka don't make hard cuts off the ball. Luka don't play off the ball well. He mopes. He doesn't play defense. Jason Kidd does a masterful job hiding him on defense because they play a 4-on-5 defensively. And he won't get a ball up to predominantly post up on the box. So for that reason, it won't work. And I was probably going to do a different show focused just on basketball, talking about that whole trade. I might do that on my caffeine show on Tuesday. I think my show on caffeine on Tuesday. That's when I'm gonna break it down because I can do video on that particular show. But like, nah, it won't work. They won't win. And what's going to happen is Kyrie's going to get the blame because Kyrie's public enemy number one. They're not going to win because Luka Doncic don't know how to play off the ball. He doesn't play defense. He doesn't cut. He doesn't do the things it takes to win. And he needs the ball. Kyrie needs the ball. And there's only one ball out there. And Dallas doesn't have enough shooters to spread the floor for both of them to pound the ball all goddamn day. So they're going to lose. So the media is going to make it seem, well, before Kyrie got there, Luka Doncic was averaging such and such, and his efficiency rating was such and such. They're going to find some stat to parse, because with stats say whatever the author wants them to say. So they're going to find some stat to parse, and then they're going to make it seem as if Luka Doncic is the greatest ever, and he's a victim of Kyrie Irving because that nigger doesn't like to listen to white authority. That's how that shit's going to happen. Sorry for you guys that came here to listen to music, but I love basketball just as much. Even though I ain't been watching that much this season because of that fuck shit the NBA pulled with Kyrie. But we about to get the hell on out of here. Thank y'all for listening. The replay will be up on YouTube sometime soon. And remember this, catch my show live here in LA at the Comedy Chateau February 25th. Catch me live. And watch my YouTube at DwannB,